Thousands of people have taken to the streets of the Haitian capital in the third straight day of protests against the government of President Jovenel Moïse. They're demanding that the president step down, accusing him of failing to tackle corruption, falling currency and soaring inflation. Since Moïse has been in power, he's been telling lies to the people. We live in hunger, in misery. The country is terrible. They can't continue to kill people like this. Jovenel must go. At least 2 people have been killed and 14 police officers injured. Adding to the already high tensions in the capital, at least 4 people were killed and 9 injured in a traffic accident involving an armoured vehicle belonging to the United Nations Stabilization Force.
Hello family, and welcome to the African Esquire channel. I want to talk today about the issue of organization, more specifically reactionary organization or reactionary activism versus revolutionary activism. But I want to talk about it in the context of modern events. So as you just seen, there was a clip of the Haitian people are revolting, and if you haven't been paying attention, a lot of things have been going on in Haiti. I'm going to just read from an article just to give you a brief synopsis. This is an article from the Washington Times, and it basically says protesters have stoned the Haitian president's home and clashed with police, leaving at least 1 demonstrator dead in a third straight day of demonstrations against the economic mismanagement and corruption. Organizers pledged more protests for Sunday, increasing pressure on President Jovenel Moïse, who is calling for negotiations with the opposition. A crowd of thousands protested in downtown Port-au-Prince Saturday, and an Associated Press journalist saw at least 1 fatally shot, apparently by nearby police. Protesters in the Petitionville neighborhood blocked the road to Moïse's house and stoned his property after guards protecting a Moïse ally hit a woman's car and beat her near the president's house. Protesters are angry about skyrocketing inflation and the government's failure to prosecute embezzlement from multi-billion Venezuelan program that sent discounted oil to Haiti. Now, the thing with this is, it would seem good, correct, that people are protesting, people are revolting, because if anyone knows anything about the administration in Haiti, or not just Haiti, really anywhere where African people are, really, we are governed by corrupt leadership. The leadership is governed by money. Money, capitalism, that is what has been ruling the people. There's not a revolutionary leader today, although there were some in the past. Of course, the CIA, the FBI, all the counterintelligence agencies work to get those particular people out of power. But as of today, we don't have anyone who actually cares about our interests. We don't have anyone who's going to do what's right for the people. A lot of these leaders, I would say all the leaders, but really the vast majority, only care about self-enrichment. They only care about doing what's satisfactory to their pocket. So there's definitely a good aspect of the people revolting. The best aspect, I think, is that when people are no longer numb to corruption, when we're no longer numb to being oppressed, when we're no longer numb to it and we actually start to feel something, because that's a very dangerous place to be in, where you're being beat down and beat down and beat down, and you stop reacting, you stop trying to push back. So there's definitely a good aspect of this type of activism, but we have to understand, if we're trying to actually change the situation, change the circumstances, that reactionary activism will not be enough. So I'm using Haiti as an example, and this has been happening not just in Haiti, all over the world, all over the African continent, even in the Americas, when there was a lot of protests regarding police brutality. You see a lot of reactionary protests. You see a lot of reactionary violence. You never really see revolutionary protests, revolutionary organization. So here's the difference that I want to point out, and it's very, very important that we recognize this, because if you start to actually observe the way that we've been organizing, or that we've been protesting all over the world, inside of every country that is ran by African people, inside of countries that we live in that are ran by white people, you see that there's a similarity, that there's not a lot of organization that backs up the protests. A lot of the protest is the organization. So, for example, you'll have organizers whose only real credit to their name is that they know how to get together a protest. They know how to get together some type of rally, some type of march. But they haven't shown effective organizing as far as planning for not only what you actually want, but how you're actually going to continue to see those things implemented. And most importantly, if what you want does not turn out to be what you thought it would be, what is your backup plan? How do you rebound? How do you regroup? You don't do these things just by protesting. You don't do these things just by trying to revolt against the government. You do these things through organization. So I'm pointing to the situation in Haiti. Obviously, Haiti is a country who has been abused and abused and abused, particularly by Western powers, especially by the United States. And this country has been very resilient. The people have been very resilient. And yet, right now, we're seeing that they're finally having some type of pushback against the oppressive forces that have been keeping them inside of this type of state. Now, let's analyze, are they really pushing back against their ultimate enemy? Because while the president of Haiti may be a puppet and the president of Haiti might be someone who was planted by the West, the ultimate people who are controlling the conditions are the ones who are actually putting that person in power, the ones who are actually benefiting from that president's administration. And we know that probably the key power that is benefiting from the chaos in Haiti is the United States, as has always been. So they have been putting people inside of power who are going to serve the interest of them, serve Western interests. Understand, if they weren't serving Western interests, you would see a very different outlook of the Haitian administration. You would see them demonized, as Maduro in Venezuela is being demonized right now. Because anytime you don't go along with the capitalist agenda, you are a threat to the democracy as it is perceived by the United States democracy. You are a threat, and therefore you can be neutralized. So if he was not someone who was actually serving the interest of the West, we would be able to tell, because he would be being treated very differently. So we know that this president is definitely a puppet. But is getting him out of power all that needs to happen? No, it's not all that needs to happen. There's a whole system of white supremacy set up. In fact, we know that as far as Haiti's history, that Haiti in itself becoming liberated does not necessarily mean that it's going to be able to withstand Western imperialism and Western colonialism. So, for example, if you look at Haiti's past, at one point, Haiti was actually free. It was the first country where slavery was actually abolished by the people, who basically killed off other slave masters and drove them back to Europe. But at the same time, the fact that Haiti got its independence, the fact that Haiti was able to get rid of their enemy, did not mean that Haiti was going to be able to withstand Western imperialism. Because as we know, the United States took Haiti's revolt, took Haiti's revolution as a direct threat to democracy in America. And when we say democracy in America, we really mean the social order of America. Because of that, they blockaded Haiti. They basically strangled the country to being desperate, to being dependent on others for aid, for help, and starve the Haitian population to punish them for having the audacity to have a revolution. So what does this mean? This means that it's not just about Haiti getting freed, but there has to be a bigger agenda. And of course, on this channel, we represent Pan-Africanism, because ultimately, if Haiti's not able to be free inside of Western waters, there's a way that it could be free, and that is if Africa is free. Because if Africa is free, the African people can actually speak up for Haiti, can actually fight for Haiti, can actually and make sure that they're enforcing that the United States and other follow the doctrines that are written inside of the Human Rights Charter that actually enforce the fact that you have a right to self-determination as a country. So these are things that can be done when all of the world is liberated. But it's only right now the Haitian people are just revolting to get the chance to be liberated, to what they feel might be liberation. We have to also understand that because this is not being backed up by organization, that they're not being able to plan for a Pan-Africanist agenda. They're not being able to plan for what happens once they actually are liberated, once they actually are free, once they get rid of this president. How do you ensure that the next president is not going to be just as bad or even worse? As we know what happened in Zimbabwe with Robert Mugabe. After they got rid of him, they thought he was so horrible. Oh, he's horrible. He's a horrible dictator. We can't stand him. They get rid of him, and then they got someone way worse. What do you do in the planning stages of these protests? And that is what is going to separate revolutionary from reactionary, violence, protest, all of those things. So I'm saying this to say, wherever we are in the diaspora, African people, we have to be thinking about organization. And I'm going to talk about this a lot more this weekend. I have a broadcast with the Federation of African Liberation. We're going to be talking about organization versus just reacting, versus just voicing your opinion, but actually organizing. We're going to talk about it though in the context of the United States is having movements, I guess, and one of them of course is the ADOS movement, also the Tangibles 2020 movement. So we're going to really be talking about political organization versus just reacting, and we're going to be talking about it in the context of the 2020 election, the ADOS movement. We're also going to be putting forth our political agenda as an organization. We're seeking to transition to being a political organization and not just a regular nonprofit. So that is the things that we're going to be doing on a live stream. That should be probably about 2 p.m. Eastern time, hopefully, on Saturday the 16th. So we're going to talk about that more inside of that context. But overall, wherever you are in the diaspora, just take note of what has worked and what has not worked. And that's the saddest thing that I see as far as our people. A lot of us haven't studied our own history. A lot of us haven't studied failed attempts for movements. A lot of us haven't studied when people actually have revolted and have succeeded versus when people have revolted and have not succeeded. Because if we've studied these things, what we would know is that those who had organizations set up to actually implement the plans, to actually voice the opinions, to actually make sure that the things that are being fought for are enforced after all the emotions and all those things are over. Because understand, those emotions that we feel when we're protesting, those things are very temporary. They're very fickle. One day you might have the energy to protest, but the next day you won't. So what is going to be in place way long after you've basically you're done wearing Trayvon Martin hoodies and you're done saying Black Lives Matter? What's going to be in place? What needs to be in place is an organization of the people that is actually set up to enforce the rights of the people and enforce and be a voice to the people. So if that's not in place, or if the organization aspect is weak, but the reactionary aspect is strong, then what you have is not stable. What you have is not something that's going to actually get you where you want to be. So I just say that again to say, study when it has worked. Study when our people have been liberated. Study the Haitian Revolution. How are they able to be organized? Study the decolonization of Africa. Study the organizations that were in place. Study the Pan-Africanists that were able to achieve liberation very quickly. Study the people in the U.S. who were able to have active movements that actually had substantial gains that were actually given to them. You know, the Civil Rights Act, that didn't happen just because people were complaining about civil rights and throwing rocks and everything. That happened because of organization. The Voting Rights Act, that happened because of organization. All the things that we have gotten, and we haven't gotten much that actually changed our condition, but we've gotten some things that are actually significant. All of those things were gotten because of organization. So I just say that to say, we're going to talk about this more on Saturday, but really focus in on the past, the present, and the future. What do we want? Do we want to just keep continuing this whole fight where we just voice our opinions, where we're just reactionary and emotional without actually being strategic? Or do we actually want to see something change? Do we actually want to see something as strong and brisk as what has happened in the past? You know, people, we look back at the Marcus Garvey UNIA movement, we look back at the Black Power movement, the Black Panther Party, we look back at these organizations, and we look back at the movement of the people who actually were so moved by the cause to actually do something, and we kind of romanticize it as if it's not something that can be repeated today, or as if it's something that's not needed today. But the fact is, if you're going to have any chance inside of this political environment, especially inside of 2019 going into 2020, if you want to have any standing chance in this political environment, wherever you are in the world, if you want to have any chance of freedom, if you want to have any chance of your desires actually being actualized through tangible means, you have to not just go out and say we're going to have reactionary violence or reactionary protests, reactionary activism, but we actually have to have organized, revolutionary, pre-planned, thinking ahead type of activism. If you're not doing that, then understand you're doing something by being awoke, but you're not doing anything to change the condition that you are living in as a people. So that's all I have. Keep an eye on what's going on in Haiti. Our people are revolting. Our people are facing horrible conditions. Our people are in dire need of our prayers, of our support. So keep an eye on that situation, because Haiti has been through a lot, and all of us throughout the diaspora, wherever we are on the continent, also just keep in mind that we have to find ways to connect to each other, because unfortunately, because we're not organized in a Pan-Africanist way, we're very limited in what we could do for Haiti. We could speak out for Haiti. We can, you know, say this is what's going on. But because we're not organized and we can't have a united front all over the world, we're really limited. So if they actually do get this guy out of power, understand that if they try to do something revolutionary to actually ensure that there's a change in the way that the government's set up, and that they actually have some type of collective ownership of their resources, something like that, that we would not be prepared to fend for Haiti. We would not be prepared, because we're not organized. We would not be prepared to actually give them the support that they need. So let's think as Pan-Africanists, let's think about the fact that at some point, regardless of if you get your freedom, you're still going to need people to back you up and people to actually push your agenda and be a voice to you, even whenever you may have a voice in one part of the world, but you need a voice in other parts of the world. So that's all I have. I will see you all in another video.